super potent, like as far as the smell was. And it was just a good little daily something for the plants to get their nutrients from. We have a worm casting farm down here, and I was able to get a lot of my stuff from over there, plus making it.
Welcome to The Art of Gardening. I'm your host, Melissa Lalo-Johnson, and I'm thrilled to have my dear friend, Nick Burton from Bootstrap Farmer, the Chief Marketing Officer of Bootstrap Farmer. Nick, thanks so much for making the time for us today.
Yeah, it's good to catch up. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a minute. So, Nick, there's so many great pieces of information we have to kind of go over today. Can you give kind of like a high-level overview of Bootstrap Farmer, what your involvement is with them, and then what kind of products you guys make?
Yeah, sure. Bootstrap Farmer is a manufacturer of tools for mainly farmers, but we've gotten more into gardening and things like that. So think seed starting trays, microgreen trays, anything that you would use to start or transplant your seed starts in. And then we also have a metal line, so greenhouses. We have some tools coming out, things like that. So a lot of greenhouse stuff, a lot of hoop houses.
That's great. And one of the first things that what my very first product was with Bootstrap Farmer, I was really looking for really well-made trays. And I had gone, previously just to the big box stores, would get the other trays that are very, very flimsy. And I happened to find on Amazon at the time, these trays, and they had just like tons of reviews. And I said, I got to try this tray. And when I got it, I was completely blown away by the strength of this tray. And now I use them for all kinds of things, they hold my crystals when I'm doing my decor. Everything. If I need anything to hold something in a tray. So very quickly, I just want to do a quick little demo here. So this is a 15-pound weight. Okay. And this is your tray. So this is the Bootstrap Farmer tray, has the little Bootstrap logo there. I'm going to put this 15-pound weight into this tray, and it is perfect. I mean, it could take double the weight.
For sure.
It's such a well-made tray. So that's what I was always telling. All my friends have this tray. Everybody has this tray now that I know. And so one of the things I said was, every year previously, I was going and spending $20 on these tray kits, and then the trays were garbage come the end of the season, where this I will have my entire life, so it's just kind of like a win-win.
And we had somebody comment the other day that with the cheap trays, like she was getting cut, like little plastic cuts, because they were sharp edges, as they broke. So it's another little benefit.
Yeah, for sure. They're just really great. And like I said, for a variety of different purposes, if you're looking for anything like that. But then, over time, you guys have now created an entire line, because then it was the cells, which I have all of your cells. So can you show us some of the cells that you guys have to go inside the 1020 trays?
So that, that 1020 tray is kind of like the foundation. That's where everything goes into. But we do have the cell trays that you can start individual seeds in, whether it's 200 count, 128 count, 72, 50 count, or even a 32. And then we're getting more and more into these air prune style trays, which are, we've run over these with cars and tractors and all kinds of things, so they can really take a punch, so to speak. But then as we start thinking about individual gardener needs, things like these 6 cells, so you could put 12 6 cells, so you're getting 72 inside of a 1020. So, if a home gardener, they don't need 72 tomatoes. So you could start 6 tomatoes, 12 tomatoes, a few cucumbers, a few flowers, a few carrots, whatever the case may be, whatever you may need. You can mix and match. We're really kind of well known for our colors, so you can do different designs or different planning out, so to speak. So, all my lettuce is in this color, and all my pumpkins are in orange or something like that. And then we've also got 2.5-inch cups. And then we've got these 5-inch pots that you can up pot into, and we talked a little bit off air about upcoming products. So we have a 3-inch and a 4-inch coming up. So really kind of spreading our wings and these little trays for like microgreens or small batch grows. So this is really more geared towards either homeowners or for farmers that are going to farmers markets, just selling, this is what you could use in your home kitchen week to week. So whether it's for a farmer or a home gardener, really trying to just take care of everybody's needs as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job of it. So let's get into some of the other things that you guys make. You have some really, I mean, hoop houses are hoop houses, but you guys actually make some really beautiful hoop houses.
I appreciate.
So yeah, I mean, just the design, I love that Gothic one. So tell us about, and if you're interested, I should have given this at the beginning, if you're interested in checking out any of their products, or their page, while we're chatting, definitely check out. It's Bootstrap Farmer on Instagram, on Facebook, on where else are you guys? Everywhere?
Pretty much anywhere you can type our name into, we're active on it. We're doing a lot of blog writing right now, and that's within the site. We have a very robust resource page. So wherever you're at in your gardening or farming journey, and we spend a lot of resources, not only about the how to plant seeds and transplant all that, but just different ways to think about your business and set that up and service your clients. Or now we're working more on the gardening side of things. So, how do you take what a gardener or what a farmer would do and scale that down for farming and still have, if a tray of ours would last a farmer 5, 6, 7 years, this may be a lifetime buy for a gardener, which, money's tight, everything's getting more and more expensive. We do have some, our trays are fairly expensive when you compare that to anything else, but you're getting that longevity and something you can stand behind. And our trays have a 2-year warranty on there, so that should say a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about, if for people that are new to gardening or don't really know what about a hoop house or owning a hoop house, what are the benefits of owning one?
I think when people think hoop house, most people think of a greenhouse, and there's different ways that you should think of it. A greenhouse by definition is, hard side. It has environmental controls like heaters, wet walls to kind of condition the air. A lot of automation built into it to kind of help bring up that temperature zone. Where a hoop house, which is kind of what we do, think of it as like if you're in one zone, you get to move a couple of zones south. So you're starting your plants early, you're extending your season, and a lot of people don't think about this and how important it is, but with all the rain we've got all this year, and it seems to get worse and worse every year, is it's keeping your crops from getting flooded out. So you're controlling the irrigation, you're able to control the flow of air and all that kind of stuff. So as long as you're planting seasonally, that you're able to extend and make your crops really a lot better, because you're protecting it from pests, you're protecting it from wind, those torrential rains. The light is just a little bit better because it's a little bit diffused, which means that the light's kind of bouncing around. I like to think of it like a disco ball. Light hits it and it scatters, so it's getting absorbed by the plant more and more. And everybody that has one, just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I used to do this without it, because it just eliminates so many of the things that, as we're working with Mother Nature, we're not working against her, but as we're doing this thing that's typically done outside, it's all undercover and protected, and it's just a lot better.
So tell us about the sizes of hoops and the design structure, like the different models that you guys sell.
Yeah, there's 2 basic shapes, which is a round, which looks like a half circle, and then there's the Gothic, which is a little bit more straight up and then has a peak. So your northern growers are typically going to use a Gothic because it sheds snow loads a lot better. Our structures are kind of known for being pretty tall, at least 2-3 foot taller than anything else that's out there. Was part of the design team that designed that, and I'm 6'1", and I always wanted to, when I was in my hoop houses, be able to use that outside edge and not hit my head. So I'm, again, 6'1", I can be right at the edge of our hoop houses and not have any problems. And with that, you get more air mass. And so one of the key things about a hoop house is the structure is containing an air mass that basically is heating the ground and in turn the roots. So the bigger buffer you have of air, think about like if you go camping and you pitch a tent and you wake up because you're getting burned. It's so hot real quick because there's just such a small amount of air. Think about maybe boiling a pot of water versus a cup of water in a small pan. It's just going to get a lot hotter, a lot quicker, and then cool down a lot quicker. So the bigger the air mass, the more buffer you have between extremes in temperature, whether that's on the nighttime side or the heat side.
What if someone doesn't have a lot of space to put like a massive hoop in their backyard? Are there you have customers that are doing like smaller scaled down versions, or how does
For
that work?
sure. Yeah. We do have a prototype in Atlanta right now that's basically could be as small as a 6 foot by 8 foot. Or I'm sorry, a 4 foot by 8 foot. But the smallest one we have in production right now is 11 foot 4 inches wide. We start at 20 foot just ad hoc, but if somebody were to call us up and say, "Look, I can only go 8 foot," we can totally make a custom length for you. So on the Gothic, that's 11 foot 4. I'm talking about width now. 11 foot 4, 14, 20, and then on the round, we do 14s, 20s, and then 30s. But the 30 is just it's a big commercial one.
That's awesome. So tell me about the material that's used around the outside. What is that, and how durable is that?
Well, I will start with saying, we source as much U.S. steel as possible. Like all of our framework is U.S. steel, so it's mined in the States. It's rolled, which is actually formed into pipe in the United States, and then it's fabricated real close to our warehouse in Paris, Texas. So we've really cut down on our manufacturing miles. We're not having to import metal. That was a big concern of ours, is to make everything within the States as much as we could. And so I'm going to start there. It's U.S. steel. It is not only galvanized, but ours, it has an additional clear coat on there. So whether that's on the inside of the pipe, the inside of the pipe, or the outside of the pipe, it does have an additional coating. And so it's 16 gauge steel throughout, unless you go up to our 30 footer, and then some of that's 12 and 13 gauge for the ground post. So they're commercial grade, hoop houses. They're all rated for like 101 miles an hour wind speed, 5 pounds per square inch on the snow load. A lot of people like to worry about the plastic, but this is commercial greenhouse plastic that's built to withstand these types of loads and things like that. And everybody that calls in thinks that they're on the windiest place on the planet, and that's our major thing we have to help people overcome. And I'm like, look, we have these on all the coast, from Florida. We have hoop houses in Alaska. We're in every single state except for Hawaii, but that's like we're fixing to actually send two over there pretty soon. We're working on a project over there. So if they're in every single state, from Colorado to the Plains to Texas we've got decimated over here just locally, with tornadoes and high winds and storms just in our little area. And we have a lot of structures up here, and they're all sailing through no problem.
So what does the installation process look like? Can you talk us through, if someone makes an order today, what does it look like when they receive it? What do they have to prep to be able to put it in? And then what does the actual process look like to install?
If somebody like ordered right now this afternoon with this, our warehouse team is likely to have that ready to ship within about 30 hours. We're in stock, we're ready to go. We have a lot of this stuff pre-bundled up. So if somebody places the order, typically getting the truck to pick it up takes longer than it does for our warehouse team. But usually they're out the door within about 4 days. And depending on where you're at in the country, we're centrally located, it could take up to 2 weeks, but most of the time it's within a week to 10 days is when they're getting delivered. It's on a crate, so everything's included down to the nuts and bolts to the cover. So we have a lot of options. I really suggest that you call in our tech line to have them walk through your specific needs and your concerns, and that usually helps eliminate a lot of worry. We realize that this is one of the largest things that people will build on their own. Most people don't build their own houses. And to build a hoop house, it looks very intimidating. And what I always like to tell people is it's a series of steps. Everybody's almost fully capable of doing each one of these steps. And it's just you repeat that over and over again. So you pound and run ground post, and then you do another one. And then by the time you're done, all the ground posts are in. And then you're building a hoop. And then you build 20 more hoops, or however many you need to build for your specific one. And then you put your base boards up and your hip boards up, and you do one end wall, and then you just mirror that end wall on the other side. And then you put the cover on. And most people, that's the thing that intimidates them the most, is putting the plastic on. But most people say that that's usually winds up being one of the easier things. Like most people don't like to pound the ground post. Yeah, you have to square it initially. It's like the most frustrating thing is the first thing you do, and then you're done, and then it's all downhill from there. And I think my favorite story from the first year that we put these out is we had a lady in New Hampshire. She was 65 years old. we answer the phone 7 days a week, and this is I was still back on the phone lines at that point. She would call every Sunday. Well, today I'm doing this. What I ought to think about or do, and I'd kind of coach her along. And over 6 weeks, she by herself built her own. I think it was a 20 by 40 or 20 by 60 hoop house. I think that's my favorite story. We have some very capable people that just let analysis paralysis get to them. The thing about a hoop house is it's so flexible in the installation because we don't know who's putting this up. So it could be somebody that's never touched a screwdriver, or it could be a structural engineer. And so the structural engineers, I think, are the hardest ones because they want everything measured down to the millimeter. And I'm like, man, you can be off like 4 to 6 inches on any of this and be completely fine. So it's a very forgiving process for somebody like me that's just kind of like, well, let's just get it done. It's no problem.
So when you talk about bells and whistles, what are some of the add-ons and some of the things that you can customize to make it more suited to what you need?
So you can get roll-up sides, you can get insect netting to keep pests out, you can get shade cloth, you can get additional bracing. We have some door options, so you can get a bigger door or no door at all and save a little bit of money on one end if you're not going to be going in and out of there. Trellis kits, things like that. We'll be releasing irrigation kits probably within the next month. So just if you're going to do vine crops, if you need a shade cloth to kind of protect, we have ventilation, we have circulation fans. So really, depending on what you're doing, we could really stretch you out quite a bit.
So have you seen a lot of people assume, like me, when you have a hoop that you're just kind of running different crops and things right in the ground, and it's, kind of all set right in the hoop like that. Do you have people that have like full on gardens, like raised beds, the whole thing kind of built out in their hoops?
You name it, we have seen it, and that's from your market gardener that has a whole mix of crops to somebody that, our mutual friend Tracy that only does lettuce in one of his tunnels, and then we'll do cucumbers or tomatoes in another one. Some of the infrastructure could be different, and a lot of people will mix the crops. It really just depends on what you want to do. And that's why I do suggest calling into one of our specialists. If you're, let's say you have back or knee problems or some type of disability and you need to have wheelchair access, we've helped people with that, where it's like, here's the type of gravel that, might be better if you're not going to pour concrete and build a raised bed to go up. We do work with a lot of NRCS agents through the High Tunnel Initiative grant, which is a cost-sharing program, or there's a lot of vernacular that people get all entangled with. But we work with a lot of these agents to help people get funding. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. If you name it, from aquaponics, hydroponics to in-ground, raised beds, whatever, it's been done.
When you talk about the foundation, what does that look like? Are there different ways that you can do the foundation for this, and what is the best?
Yeah, it varies from. Some people have to go through like a city program. I'd say maybe like 5 to 10% of them do that, and they may require concrete. But the ground posts themselves, they just get pounded into the ground. There's a little ground post driver to protect the pipe to keep it from having a misshape or anything like that. But it just goes right into the ground. And by the time you do that up and down, for each hoop, there's 2 of them. There's a lot of surface area that these ground posts are holding into the ground. Now, your soil structure may come into play. So if you're going right into sand, you may think about, at least doing the corners and some cement. But if you're clay or sandy loam, I mean, these things they're just not going anywhere because it's like an airplane. You walk into an airplane and you look at the door as you're walking in. There's that super thin, almost alarming shell of aluminum that keeps 600, 700, 800 mile an hour winds from getting into the plane and tearing it up from the inside. Same thing with the hoop house. As long as the storm's coming and you're buttoned down and the doors are shut and you don't have any damage, the wind's just going to roll off of there because it's a tight plastic. But if you have a tear or you leave your door open or it's a significant wind and you give that wind a chance to get in there and lift it up, that's where people see damage. We've never had a collapse. We've never had really any claims on any of these whatsoever. The only reason I bring it up is because people worry about it. Are these things gonna do it? And like, even if you build this thing 80% correct, you're gonna be okay.
Have you seen anybody use them for anything outside of gardening? like
Like the
basketball
park.
hoop or basketball court or something, soccer goal or something like.
So it's one of those things that if you name it, we've been asked about it. A lot of times it'll fall out of our purview in that these things are designed for one thing. They're designed to grow vegetables, be put into the ground. If you want to put it over cement or build it on a hillside or something like that, you really should talk to whoever's going to be installing that. We're not equipped to be on site and advise on how to do things like that. But if you're capable of building and you realize that this may be out of what this thing is designed for, but you want to modify it for your own use, that's between that's between you and your hoop house.
And you had
So
mentioned previously that people have asked you about putting it over pools or maybe doing a soccer field inside, or just because it's holding that, giving you that year round, the ability to have that year round space.
yeah, and we always ask people, well, have you thought about? Let's give the pool example. If you're in Wisconsin and it's still -30, this thing is only going to be about 10 degrees over ambient temperature. So it's not like you're going to be able to create this tropical zone in a hoop house. You're going to have to do things like add heaters and add probably additional ventilation because it's going to get so much more humid. I mean, really getting off the rails on this line of
Yeah,
question.
it was a random question because I was thinking like, oh, soccer field or, something, an outdoor practice area for the kids to be able to play if you were using
Well,
it
and
during the winter.
a lot of that's going to be stopped by how wide we can go. Like you could do a 30-foot wide, but if you're just going to use it for that, you're probably better off just like going and joining one of these clubs or something like that, or finding an indoor space that's, it's not going to cost you, 20 grand to have this spot for
Sure.
3 weeks out of the year that you need it.
So tell us, I know over the years that we've known each other, you've been involved in a lot of really, really great things as far as podcasts. You made a documentary here at my house, which you just we were talking one day and you said, hey, like, what's out back by the creek, and we'd kind of gone back there and we're like looking around and we found wild raspberries and strawberries and, all kinds of random things. And so we were talking about just different ways that farmers can take things to market with everything that you do. And we'll put that link to the documentary in the caption. But tell us a little bit about the different sources of information that you've curated for people to be able to learn how to garden and take their products to market.
Yeah, and I'll say, this is not my dog and pony show. Like there's a whole team of people that on the media side of Bootstrap Farmer that their whole mission is to make sure that if you're a grower, whether that's seasoned or just starting, or you're worried about food insecurity, or you might be doing a little prepping over here, or flower gardening over here, or making something for cocktails over here, that we have a resource for you. And so, I'm a terrible writer. I'm a terrible speller, but I'm the photographer, and we make the videos on my side of things, and then I pass that off to Katie and her team. So we've got several people there that are writing the blogs and basically taking the imagery and putting great words with it. And so no matter how you want to learn, whether if you want to watch a video, look at a picture, read a blog, listen to it, we want to have a resource for that. And that's we're trying to fill in the gaps to make sure that there's a corresponding video with every article and vice versa. The podcast, that's really I don't have a leash and I get to talk to interesting people doing interesting things. You reclaiming the forest in the way that you did it was very fascinating to me. And that was like, we got to take an afternoon and tell your story. So another guy, Carl, that we deal with a lot down here, and we visit his farm quite a bit. He just got back from a mission trip in Africa, and we got to sit down and talk about his observations of farmers markets in Tanzania and what he saw from that farming side. So it's, you need entertainment and you need stories of other farmers doing cool stuff. And that's kind of what the podcast is. But the YouTube, it's also that plus how to, and this is what it looks like, and answering a lot of the customer questions that we get. And whether that's, from a review or somebody calling in or emailing in or a comment from social media, we like to take those questions and give a good physical example of what that is. I mean, it's one thing to say that these trays are heavy duty. It's in your hand and you know it is, but to convince somebody who are these people on the internet?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to put a lot of faith in that with how squirrely the world is these days. So we're trying to like visually show people, this is the real deal. It can take a hit, and you can drop it, and we're all accident prone, and you're going to be okay.
For sure. Well, and speaking of good people and good businesses, our friends at Petra Tools, who I work very closely with and I love their products, have offered you, I'm going to give you 3 different products that you get to pick what you would like to receive as a gift for being on the show today. So option number 1 is our fish and seaweed fertilizer. This is a 1-gallon container of hydrolyzed North American fish and kelp, and very, very good stuff, very nutritious for your plants. Then there is the vegetable fertilizer. So this one is more geared towards vegetable growing. So this is more, I mean, this is vegetable too, but this is great for any plants, indoor house plants. I mix this with the worm tea and use it indoors. This is going to be more for your outdoor grow. And then we have the wonderful worm tea. So this is great for conditioning your soil. And so what's it going to be, Nick?
Yeah, I think the worm casting is one of my favorite things to use. So I think that we'll go with that for sure.
It's so good. So tell me why, like, what experience have you had with the worm castings? What makes you love it so much?
So before Bootstrap Farmer, I did have my own farm. So I was in a 30 by 96 high tunnel, and then we had an indoor hydroponic grow with NFT channels, and then we did year-round tomatoes in Paris, Texas. And so for me, the worm castings, I knew it was getting a little dose of nutrients. It wasn't, super potent, like as far as the smell was. And it was just a good little daily something for the plants to get their nutrients from. We have a worm casting farm down here, and I was able to get a lot of my stuff from over there, plus making it in-house. And it just seems like the best way to go about, if you want to generate your own worm castings or buy it from somebody else, I don't know. It's just like it was a good daily thing that I didn't have to worry about burning the plants.
Yeah, for sure. And I use it, like I was saying, I mix it with the fish and seaweed. And that's what I've been giving my indoor house plants. I mean, I've been using the worm tea for like 2 years. And the fish and seaweed, they just introduced that recently, but I have started kind of doing that. And the worm tea alone makes such a difference. I mean, like you were saying, it gives it just the right amount that the plant can uptake it properly. It's not getting too much nitrogen. It's not turning to ammonia. It's not turning to sugars. It's not forcing the plant to do anything, that's not beneficial for the growth, which is,
I think it's a great like starter nutrient. Like you're not going to have to worry about getting it exactly dialed in as far as your calibration and however you're feeding it. Plus, I think it runs smoother through tighter nozzles and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you what, another great experience I've had with it recently in the last few years, I was always on the same rose bushes getting powdery mildew. Every single year, they were destroying my rose bushes. And I just was like, well, maybe I'm going to spray them with worm tea. And I sprayed them with worm tea, and almost immediately it was controlled. The next season, so I sprayed it a few times that season. It had stopped moving once I sprayed it. And then the next season, which was last year, I had very little to no powdery mildew in a spot that I had battled it every single year for multiple years. And so now I'm interested to see what's going to happen this year. But when I read about it, it just said that the microorganisms and the beneficial value of the worm castings, they absorb, they eat, they digest the powdery mildew. And so that's been another huge thing for me, because I almost ripped them out of the ground. It was that bad. I mean, the leaves, nobody likes that. And even for vegetables and things like that. So to know that you've got a natural control to be able to use on your vegetable garden, it's definitely a huge benefit that I've firsthand witnessed. And that's the thing too. I know I'm always with these products, but I use them. I trust them. I know them, so it's definitely good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a plant is better taken care of and is healthier, it can resist pest problems, the mildew problems, anything coming in from the roots. I mean, you're giving yourself more success. And look, a lot of people might be listening to this and just starting out, and I think that's the one thing Bootstrap Farmer just encourages. Like, just start doing one thing, figure that out, and then you can double what you're doing, and then double that. And watching these farmers scale up over years, and we like to say that farmers don't come to us to replace their equipment; they come to us because they're growing and they need more stuff. And that's really what we've seen is just really learning how to do something, keeping the plant healthy, and then riding it out season through season.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for all of this information. It's been so great to catch up, and I'm so proud of you and watching you the last few years and everything you've been able to do with Bootstrap Farmer. So again, if you're interested in checking out Nick and his work with Bootstrap Farmer, their products, where are the products available now if you're going to buy them? Are they
We're on
through the website?
Bootstrapfarmer.com is where we're at. I mean, we still have some stuff on Amazon, but it's cheaper just to buy direct, because obviously there's, more hands on that. And we have more control over customer service on that because we can actually talk to you. So yeah, bootstrapfarmer.com is where to go.
So lots of great resources. The team there is fantastic. So if you have any questions about products or what to do next, they're there for you. That's what I love about you.
You can verify. You've been to our factory in the United States and you've seen some of this stuff get made. So it's not just coming from me; it's also coming from you, and you've seen it. And that's the main thing about having an e-commerce or internet company is just putting that human touch on there, and that's why we're here, and that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, you guys are doing it well, and definitely very proud to use your products and keep moving forward into the future. So thanks for your time today. Thanks for all your expertise, and we'll definitely have to do this again sooner rather than later.
Fair enough. Good seeing you again.
Thanks, Nick. Bye-bye.